You're watching Cable 2. You're watching Cable 2.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Curriculum Committee of the Winston-Salem County School Board of Education. I will now call the meeting to order. On our agenda tonight are two discussion items that will not require any type of action. So at this time, I'll present Dr. Paula Wilkins, our Chief Academic Officer, and Ms. Kimberly Forbes, the Director of CTE.
Good afternoon. It's so great to be here in my first curriculum committee, officially. Members of the board, thank you so much for allowing us an opportunity to just provide some quick updates related to some areas in our instructional services division. So as Dr. Forbes comes up and gets prepared for an update, I just wanted to lay the groundwork about this update for this evening. We talk a lot about students being prepared for college, which of course that is a wonderful goal, but we also don't spend enough time talking about career readiness for our students. And our career and technical education programs provide lots of opportunities and pathways to help provide job skills and life skills for our students as they prepare for college or the work world and beyond. And so for today, we have talked in our district about ensuring we can have access for multiple pathways for our students. So our career technical education programs, better known as CTE, provide many pathways that I think are our unknown gems in our district that we need to highlight and share with our students, with our families, with educators across our community about how students can access so many skills. And Ms. Forbes is gonna give us that update today. And our hope is that this is a small update along the continuum for CTE. In months to come, we'll share the full plan that has to be approved by the board, but today we're gonna focus on our pathways for our CTE programs. Dr. Forbes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me? Okay. So I wanted to give you an overview that career and technical education is actually funded by the Carl Perkins Federal Grant. CTE receives state funds, federal funds, and then we also receive months of employment so that we, CTE, will pay for the teaching positions for those teachers teaching CTE courses. The purpose of career and technical education is to provide a high skill, high wage, or in-demand career pathways, which we have been working on in the district. We have met with each of the high school principals and had their input on what pathways they want at their schools that we're going to be offering for the 23-24 school year. But in a pathway, students are able to, within a course, completing course sequences, they're able to earn industry-recognized credentials, as well as have work-based learning experience, such as internships, apprenticeships, but they also have the ability to enter into college and career promise where they can enroll in Forsyth Tech to get college credits while they're completing those pathways. The pathways are connected to the local economy and the industry needs. That's some of what we have to do when we're looking at our programs and how they align and be a part of the plan that Dr. Wilkins was referring to. CTE funding will fund courses from 6th grade through 12th. However, we can reach out down into 5th grade to make the elementary students aware of what CTE is and what their offerings are. Connecting to the local economy, we have pathways in the 6 identified sectors in the Winston-Salem, Forsyth County area. Health and life sciences, we have aviation, we have advanced manufacturing, we have technology and business, and construction. So we offer 45 pathways currently, 46 pathways. We just added a new one. 46 pathways for students to be able to focus on, as well as within those pathways, over 200 courses in CTE that include any of the standard and the honors level courses that we have. All of our CTE courses next year will be offered at the honors level. So this slide explains what a CTE pathway looks like. Normally, it would be a 2-course sequence, but if you look, some of them need more than a 2-course sequence. For instance, our carpentry, they have to do a core instruction, which means that they have safety and those things before they can actually get into building. And then there's 2 courses, carpentry 1 and 2, but they can continue on, if you look at that last column there, where they can do work-based learning or do the college and career promise. If you look at the healthcare, they have 2-course sequence there to be what we call in that orange orange piece means they're concentrator or a completer in that pathway that is recognized by Department of Public Instruction. And then they can actually take their nursing fundamentals and get their CNA certification. So I wanted to just cover a little bit, because what is supported in career and technical education is what we call CTSOs, Career and Technical Student Organizations. They are not clubs, but they are actually intracurricular. Within the classroom, these activities and competitions can be incorporated in the curriculum, and students build leadership skills. They have work-based opportunities as they're participating in the career and technical student organizations, and you can see some of them: Skills USA, DECA, FCCLA, HOSA, FBLA, and TSA. And we're, hopefully next year, we're going to have an FFA, so we're excited about that. But we support the teachers, the advisors, and the students when they are competing in the regional, state, and their national competitions. And we have a good showing in all of that in our district. So as Dr. Wilkins told you earlier, in May, June, there will be a CTE plan that must be submitted to DPI annually on what we're planning on doing with our funds and our pathways and how they are connected. We'll present to you then and ask you to sign an assurance and certify that the plan will be implemented once DPI gives us the clearance. But I want to share a little bit of the upcoming CTE program plans. We're looking at purchasing an ambulance for our EMT pathway at North Forsyth High School, looking at a food truck for our culinary program at Kennedy High School. I get excited telling you this, so I'm trying to be calm. And add a program to actually build airplanes with our aviation pathway at the Career Center. We will begin next year looking at plans to incorporate advanced manufacturing at the Career Center, because that's a need in our area, HVAC at Kennedy, and agricultural education at Walkertown High School. And last, not a slide, but to tell you and share with you that Dr. Quincy Williams and I will be representing our district and our state on a national committee. It is called, I had to write it down, LAUNCH, which is building pathways nationally that will be more equitable for students and for accelerated pathways. So we go next month for our first national meeting on this, but we were invited along with 4 other districts in North Carolina to have input on these pathways. So we're excited about that opportunity as well. So I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you for the report. Are there any
Yes.
questions from the board committee?
I would just like to say this is exciting. I was kind of excited with you, especially when it came to the part of building airplanes.
Yes.
That's really cool, yeah.
Yes.
Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thank you. We're trying to be innovative in our approaches to
yeah.
what we're doing, and get the students excited.
And plus, I took flying lessons 3 times and I decided to stop. Too expensive, but.
Yes. Well, we'll let you, if we get a flight simulator. So,
I'd just like to add, in your next update, could we have more discussion on middle school offerings?
yes,
For us?
absolutely.
Really hands-on courses, especially at the 8th grade level, as they move into high school, and what that might look like for us in the future?
Absolutely.
Hearing no other questions, are there any other questions? Again, this is only for information only, so at this time, we'll move forward to item number 2, the reimaging of the summer programs to improve student learning experiences.
Afternoon again. And so today I want to provide just a brief overview and engage in a little conversation about summer. Just as a little background context, in our district, we've had summer program offerings for years to ensure we can provide support for our students to help with both additional academic support, but also to help with meeting expectations for grade level outcomes as well. One of the things that you may or may not be aware of over the past couple of years, with the ESSER funding, this has allowed us to grow the number of students that we've served over time. And in previous years, we've had an opportunity to partner with community agencies that also were helping us to align and serve our students. And so today, I just want to talk about our kind of reimagining of our approach to summer programming moving into the summer ahead. But before I talk about what we envision this summer looking like, I want to give just a little bit of context about the previous summer's number of students served and our outcomes. So in summer 2021, we served over 7,000 students with our summer programs. 480 of those represent third grade students who attended Rise Camp who did not meet our Read to Achieve expectations. So just as a little bit of caveat for those who may not be aware, for third grade, students are expected to meet the expectation for proficiency for third grade, and there are multiple ways that they can show that they've met that expectation. Passing the end of grade assessment is one way, passing the beginning of grade assessment, and then we have alternate assessments as well as summer programs. So there are multiple ways that students can meet that gateway. For students enrolled in our summer programs, they have not met that expectation at that point. Of those 480, 11% met the criteria by the end of our summer programming in 2021. In 2022, last year, we served almost 6,000 students. 729 of those students are the number of students who attended the program that did not meet our Read to Achieve legislation expectation. Of the 729, 5% met the criteria by the end of the summer for Read to Achieve. And then this is the breakdown of how they met it. 98 of those students by Dibbles, 13% overall, and less than 5%, 4 of those met it through a Read to Achieve with Dibbles. It's important that this did not count for the students who met that criteria by the last Read to Achieve testing session with this data. So just to give you a little bit, a lot of our focus for many years, and of course with our district reading goal, has been about helping students meet that expectation. So this is just a little bit about our data and student serves. So what did we learn from 2022? So communication being critical to our success for our summer experience, knowing to plan early, to think about all of the wild card factors we may not think about, student enrollment, how soon students enroll, and how do we respond when we don't get responses from students. What we've had over the past couple summers, and you may have heard, we get a huge influx of students that are prepared and want to enroll in the program, even after our initial attempts for enrollment. And so we really need to have a better way to respond to that and make sure we have spaces and places for our students to enroll, even if they might not sign up during our initial windows. So that was really important. Also thinking about urgency of summer school instruction must increase. We have to align this to our students meeting to our read to achieve requirements, but we also need to think about engagement. A lot of times we think about summer as an extension of school, and though it is also summer. And there is always an opportunity for us to have the joy factor, for students to learn and have joyful experiences. So we talk about how our opportunity gaps continue to grow when some students get to go to summer camp and other students get to go to school. And why can't we have both? And so a lot of what we are thinking about is how do we make our summer a joyful learning experience for our students, which is super important. We also want to ensure that our adults have teacher flexibility around scheduling because they've spent the whole year teaching as well. And then identification of our best teachers to help us move the needle for our student outcomes. So what are our goals? Well, first of all, create a joyful learning and enrichment experience for our students that allows them to engage in passions and to cultivate new skills. So all of what we talk about, especially with our CTE programs, we want to give that exploration experience to our students, even in our younger grades. We also want to provide targeted interventions to our students who need it most, as well as reducing summer slide. But ultimately, we want to think about how do we restructure the learning experience in summer to be as optimal as what we ultimately want all year long. So we make it a pilot or a replica to make creative, engaging experiences all year long. So what are some enhancements that we are looking for this year? So as we talk about our reimagining of summer school, we want to provide enrichment and innovative learning for all students. So field trips being a non-negotiable, critical part of every student's learning experience. Just because you're in summer learning doesn't mean you shouldn't get field trips. Offering enrichment activities alongside academic engagement and engaging lessons for our students. Bringing in our community partners to be critical supports. When we think about what is provided in our community to our students, we need that all year long. And so it's been quite some time since we've used community partners to be a part of our summer learning experience and as partners in the process, and this is a perfect opportunity to bring them into the process. So our program is going to be Monday through Friday, with Monday through Thursday with Winston-Salem-Forsyth County staff providing educational enrichment and academic coursework. And we're going to offer an additional vacation week. So this is somewhat of a plus for our teachers. 4th of July week, having a summer vacation, at least when you are a teacher, we want to embed that within the summer experience and allow our community partners to help to host an enrichment week during that time period. So by the end of the summer, they're not burned out and they're ready to go because we need that. 8:30 to 4 will be the hours for our summer programs. It will be an 8-week program, which is double the time that we have traditionally offered students in the past. And we're going to do a push-in model. So the flexibility with this opportunity will be providers who are, and I'll talk about this in just a second, who are awarded a partnership with us. They can use their own site, and our Winston-Salem-Forsyth County staff will push in for the academic portions of the summer program. So just to give you a glimpse of our thinking, the way we looked at our proposed calendar, these are the weeks for our summer program where we show our providers are with us all 8 weeks and helping support our Fridays every week, and then our Winston-Salem-Forsyth County staff, the weeks that they will start June 26th with that July 4th week off, and so on going to the end of August. So our process to engage our community partners, we have launched something called a request for qualifications. For those who might have heard previously, we launched a request for proposals for mentoring before and after school and for tutoring last year. We have launched a request for qualifications, which is slightly different for our summer program, because what we are asking our providers to say is, here's what we want for summer. Do you have the capacity to provide what we need? Show us what that will look like, and then we have a rubric for selection to be able to determine the providers that could do that. And then I'll talk about the timeline and how we'll keep you all updated in the process. It's a little different from what I just noted. before, which did not include summer at all. So if you might, I know one question might be, didn't we do this already? This is a little bit different, and so the process is slightly different. So just a few more logistics about provider expectations, and all of this is located in the RFQ, which has already launched. So service providers have to offer daily, reliable care that meets the needs of our families for kindergarten through 8th grade students, structured student enrichment opportunities, which we've defined. They use their own curriculum or a district vetted curriculum to support, and this is on the enrichment side, not the academic side. They offer weekly educational field trips. They have to be able to provide breakfast and lunch by implementing a summer meal plan approved by our central office team. They develop and implement enrichment activities. The enrichment side for adult to student ratio is 1:20. That is not for the academic side. That's only the enrichment side. They have to have emergency protocols for how they respond to student needs, whether that behavior or medical as well. Specific documentation outlining their hiring procedures, background checks that meet local and state and federal requirements, and collaborate and plan with our district representatives, which is a clear part. So they are contracting with us to provide this service, but they still must meet our criteria. And I need to note we are in an active RFQ, so you may ask me some questions that I may not be able to answer, but I will tell you we can direct any question that you have to John Mann, who's our director for procurement, that can follow up with anything that we need related to the RFQ. But process, the RFQ launched on last Tuesday, and the RFQ has two sides: for summer enrichment services providers and for actual service providers. So just a little bit of explanation on there. There are some organizations that may want to just provide some enrichment activities but cannot host an actual program. And there are some that want to host numbers of students for a program. And so that's why we allow for different options for them to be able to apply for the RFQ. John Mann has already sent that to our district contact list for previous RFPs, and that has already been sent out. We will host a pre-RFQ meeting for providers to just explain our process, what we're offering, just reminder about rubrics, how they direct their questions, and that is upcoming. We expect that by mid-February, the RFQ is going to close, and then we'll have a committee to review those submissions, to make recommendations to submit to the Board of Education for final approval. And then by March, we will be able to notify those providers about awards related to our summer program. And that's the update. How can I assist with questions? Yes.
I got a three-part question, sorry.
Okay.
First one, I guess, can additional, I'm sorry, I got a three-part question.
Okay.
Can additional service providers actually come in and say they would like to provide to the RFQ, or is it too late?
So the RFQ is open,
Okay,
and anybody can
really
apply
apply.
at this
Okay.
point.
okay. And then, I've asked this, but I would like to get a rubric that you all are using. So I'm assuming, and this is an assumption, that the burger docs that you have here are what is a part of the rubric that they have to meet. And so I don't want to see everybody's bid, but I want to see like the finale, the final sheet of the RFQ, and where you actually use the rubric and what each group has scored on each item.
So I'm going to defer to Tommy on our Chief Finance Officer on that one.
I believe we can accommodate that. It may have to be closed, just because it depends on any other information they have.
Right.
But yes, ma'am, we can review that.
And that's something I know I'm going to be asking all the time too, so,
I mean, that's fine.
okay.
Can I ask a question just for clarification? Do you mean after the companies are selected, the organizations are selected, and you're looking at that to approve, and then you want to see all of that, or are you wanting to see it before they are? I think that will clear up whether it can be, because if they've been selected, we
It's
can
too
do that
late.
in this room. Mhm.
Yeah, I was looking at it before.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to see the rubric itself, it is a part of the RFQ. So, but you mean the scoring, is
The
that?
scoring,
Okay.
yes. Okay.
And the third part?
I think That's it. Those two would be good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to make sure I got those two.
Dr. Wilkins, I have a question about registration. Do families need to register their students for all 8 weeks, or can they do, 2 weeks of it, or, a week here, a week there, week?
So our goal is to market this as a comprehensive 8-week program. However, we also understand that families have vacations, they have, pieces that families have already planned. So we will do what we can to be as flexible with the goal of the majority of the time. We've kind of, in the past, done no more than a week of absences as the recommendation, and I believe from the committee's perspective, we still plan to go with that. So what we're trying to avoid is people who can say, I can come this day, but not this day, and this week, and not that way. Because it defeats, one, how we look at evaluating the quality of the program and the services provided. So we have always discouraged that, and we've asked for a commitment from our families.
Are there other questions for Dr.
Yeah,
Wilkins?
Dr. Wilkins, I have a question. Can you go back to that first slide, I think, where you were showing the percentage of students that had passed? If you don't mind.
Oh, well, it's on my end.
Okay.
Let's see. Thank you.
Okay, and I want to make sure I understand this. So, let's see, in 2021, you had 11% of those were third graders, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. That passed after the end of the summer session. And then in 2022, you had a group of third graders, and am I looking at this right? 5% of
So
them.
it's two different
Okay.
criteria. So you see that there's a number of 98, which is 13%, and then 4 that met, is broken out further
Okay.
in the next year. See the difference?
Let me see.
The overall 43. Okay, no, okay.
So it's 43, which is 5% that met the criteria by the end of the summer through Read to Achieve. 98% of those, which is 13% of the total students, met it through Dibbles. And then 4 of them met it both with the Read to Achieve and meeting the exit criteria with Dibbles.
So I
It's
think
a little
that-
confusing. We
I
probably
think that
should've-
comes up to 19%.
It was
Ended up-
higher
Okay,
last year.
all right,
Okay.
that's what I was trying to understand, all right. Okay. Because in 2021, you didn't break it down, but in 2022, you broke, okay, good, because I was just wondering why.
Well, and there are a couple things. One, that was our first year bringing back Dibbles in the transition, so there were some shifts in between with our data as well. We had iReady before, so there were some changes. And
Okay.
if you need it broken down further, I know a guy that can help me.
I just want to make sure the trend from 2021 to 2022
Is moving upward.
positive.
It is, it
Okay,
is.
and maybe I was the only one that just kind of saw
No,
that, but,
I saw
okay,
it.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Wilkins? Hearing none, we have a motion to adjourn the curriculum committee meeting.
So moved?
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the Finance Committee meeting. And just as a reminder, it's myself as chair, Robert Barr as vice chair, Richard Watt, Susan Miller, and Alex Bohannon. And our first discussion item tonight is review of the 2023-2024 budget timeline. Mr. Krantz.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm gonna kind of walk up here if I can. I think everybody can hear me. So we've handed out, we've taken the dates that was on the calendar presented to you previously and showed you the weeks and/or the dates that we intend to have things done. We obviously will do everything to get this done sooner than later. So what we're gonna do is, in doing the budget, we're gonna break it down into 2 budgets we're gonna prepare. One budget's gonna be a traditional, and I'll basically prepare that. So that traditional would take the amount we had as adopted in FY '23 rolling up any and all amendments, deciding which ones are ongoing and which ones were one-timers. So you have then a good beginning base. And you say, okay, if I have this point and I budget the same amount of dollars, what would my budget look like based off of things I've heard in my first 7 or 8 months here? I don't remember how long I've been here. So we then will have a budget based off of data that we've gotten from users. But it won't be the whole budget. You follow me? It'll take the base and then roll it. And that'll give us a good beginning point. We are right now, schools and departments have received their budget request. They received that on Friday. On the school side, we did not do the personnel. And the reason for that is we'll pick that up in the allotment process. So we've got the November data. So when you look at the budget, you'll see salary expense in there. And that's based off of the November payroll data, plus doing a comparison to determine vacancies. And theoretically, we will have all the positions in the district, okay? Trying to tie it down for this large of a district is a challenge. No matter how many places I go and no matter how much work we put, there's always probably 1 or 2 that we're missing at the end of the day, but it'll be very, very close, all right? Then on the non-personnel, at the school level, that's the part they'll look at. And that primarily has been their instructional allotments in the past. And then they break that down to how they want to spend it. On this pass, they actually get a chance to tell the district what they need on the non-personnel side. So it's not like we've done in the past where we said, okay, here's your instructional allotment, and then figure it out. They had no say in the total. Now they get a say, you see what I'm saying, through the request side, off of what they want and what they need. Now eventually, so we'll have the traditional budget ready by February 17th. We're very comfortable with that date. And that doesn't mean I'm sleeping in the office. It may be closed, but it doesn't mean that. And this is close to what we did on our calendar. On the week of February 20th, in that week, we will have the traditional budget versus the priority-based budget. So the priority-based budget is what we're getting from schools as well as departments. Now, departments are going to give us their positions as well as their non-personnel component because they don't go through the allotment process like we do at the school level. On February 27th, based off of how we do the comparison of traditional to the priority, based off of everything we've gotten back, based off of our review, we'll do another revision. Throughout this process, we're going to be keeping the superintendent up to date so that she knows where we stand, assumptions we've had to make, that she want to change the assumptions, and trying to work in a collaborative fashion with everybody so that when we get to the end, we have a good, sound document as best we can get. And this is a process. Remember, this is the first year. This is a big change for this district. We will have some hiccups. No matter how well we try to prevent it, there's going to be a hiccup. But I think at the end of the day, if we have our users say, I've had a voice in the process, then we've accomplished our goal. We'll have a better budget, and we'll have one that represents the entire district. Because remember, this isn't Tommy's budget. This really isn't the board's budget, though you're the entity. At the end of the day, this is the Winston-Salem, Forsyth County School budget. And we want everybody to feel like they've been part of the process, okay? And that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve. I think it'll be a more accurate budget. Not to say they're going to get everything, because I can tell you that's not going to happen, okay? Throughout the process, we will be updating revenue. You see that in the green line. And that truly is everything we can get. Recently, I received a phone call on our utility side. There, we could see the increases between 10 to 18%. That's significant. The revenue, what's going to happen with what the federal government's doing? Do they play chicken, on the debt ceiling situation? That could have an impact on federal programs. The other thing that it can impact, not that I'm proposing it in a way, I'm just trying to get you to understand, and I've said this a few times, this is a $1 billion business. We handle the cash. We go through $1 billion of cash. That's going to come into play if somebody slows down the funding level. And we can't go borrow money. We're not like the private industry. We're not like the county government. Now, we can try to go to the county, but all of this is, my point is this, you have to manage this daily. If you don't, it's easy to get away from you. And we lose track of the complexity, the size of this district is, and the amount of pieces that we've got. And I'm not looking for any sympathy, so please don't take it like that. That is not my case. I've done this at this size organizations in private much bigger, so I'm fine with it. I'm just saying so you understand the complexity as we put this thing together and the things that we will be looking for and tracking, okay, and how that will impact us. I'm hoping, and I've heard, I'm going to the Association of School Business Officials for North Carolina, their events the week of February 6th. Traditionally, the last day, that Friday, we do get some information about the allotment. It's not going to be totally accurate, but those are the little pieces we get that help us determine where our revenue is and keep you advised and keep the superintendent and everybody advised where the holes may be, okay? Once we get through the revised information and we'll run a solid draft on March the 14th. That draft, assuming it meets the standards of the superintendent, so everything I say here is subject to the superintendent signing off on it, okay? This isn't Tommy just giving it. I've got checks. The more people that do check and balance, the better the document's going to be. Seriously, it's one person cannot do it. No matter how good we think we are, it just doesn't work out quite that way. We then will go from the first draft to the second draft. At either the first draft or the second draft, that's when I believe we'll be presenting to you as a board with a detailed presentation going through it. You as a board need to decide, and I think I would wait till we see how the budget is. And again, this is my first time in this county, but what public hearings you want to hold, okay? And I think there's a lot of requests. I'm just going to tell you, there's a lot of challenges. So getting input is not a bad thing, but you got to just structure your time to get everything. I would recommend that you do at least one public hearing. I would probably recommend more, but I'd at least count on one public hearing in there. Then the goal is on April 25th, you would adopt the budget, or that week. It doesn't have to be, I'm using the Tuesday in your meeting days. But if there still was discussions, if there still are open items, we can continue working on it. May 1 is an ideal date that we can communicate to the county what our needs are, because by law, we're supposed to get it to them no later than May 15th. But I think this, and we'll have conversations. We're keeping the county, unless somebody tells me otherwise, but we're having good dialogue between the financial department so we know what assumptions they're using and we compare it to the assumptions we're using, particularly on the revenue side. Anything I haven't covered on budget timeline that you need?
Any questions for Mr. Krantz? Okay, thank you. Appreciate you mapping that out for us so we know what to expect this spring. Okay, and our next item is a discussion of the 2022 audit report, also with Mr. Krantz.
So Tyler with the firm will be here. You're going to hear about the audit report. And the audit report is good. It has an unqualified opinion. That's the best opinion you can get, okay? So that says we have the internal controls in place to properly record the transactions of this district and protect the assets of the district. There was 2 exceptions that were noted that they've indicated, which they have to by law, as a material weakness. The first one involves a restricted assets that were supposed to be set aside in Fund 2. The transaction got recorded in Fund 8, which is other local revenues. When that happened, it appears that there was an appropriate, that we were asking as an administration to appropriate funds that there was not enough money in that fund to do that. That's against the rules. We can only appropriate the revenues that are on hand and nothing different. So that's with that one. You can see on page 84 of the audit report, my response. We've already got processes to tighten that down today. That is not something that should ever happen. It should get caught, and unfortunately, I think with the transition between the former CFO and me at here, it slipped. That should never happen, to be honest. That just is taboo, and that won't happen going forward. The second finding relates to a transaction that involved computers. Through our E-rate, there was emergency connectivity funds that the district earned. Those funds were used to buy Chromebooks. The service provider, no money came to the district. Okay, like we get money, you'd see a budget amendment recognizing the revenue, you'd see the allocation for the expenses. That didn't happen because no cash came through. However, that should have happened because we have $7 million of assets that need to be on the books. And they can't go what they call a one-way entry. It should be a two-sided entry, okay? I understand the logic that the district had, but from an accounting perspective, you can't do that. You're just not allowed. So that was the second finding that you'll hear tonight. The rest of the report is very straightforward. You get a good feel looking at that report, the complexity of what we do every day. And, it's something I think with the exception of those two findings, to be proud of it. Unfortunately, the two findings from being a licensed CPA, doesn't make me as happy as it could. So, any questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that report.
Thank you.
And for explaining those two pieces on the audit. With no further business for the Finance Committee, we are adjourned.
Thank you. I would like to call the meeting to order. May I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss a personnel matter? So moved. Motion is made.
Second.
And yes, a motion and a second have been made. All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.